Okay, is this on? Yeah? Hello? What up? Oh! Hey, what's up? Hey guys, what's up? It's another day, you know? It's July 5th as of this moment. It's currently 5:41 p.m. at Utah. Whoa! Welcome everyone. Today we're going to be teaching about the early game, the mid game to late game of a chemical stinger today. There's a lot of things to talk about for a chemical stinger, especially when it comes to the mid game, because there is a lot of bulk of things that you need to like prepare for yourself, and there's some hard truths about a chemical stinger and all that stuff. So let's get into it, and let's talk about the pros and cons about a chemical stinger. Like what what are the advantages and disadvantages of a chemical stinger compared to the other cons, of course. So, oh, I thought you even edited this at all. All right, so the biggest pros for a chemical stinger, right, is that a chemical stinger's DPS, right, is high. It is a constant high DPS and it's constantly shooting out. There's absolutely not a lot of downtime for a chemical stinger. There's like a lot of things you should be doing as a chemical stinger while shooting. You have the advantage to just keep shooting from pretty much almost any range. That's one of the biggest like pros about chemical stinger. You also have the largest range out of any other Arcana. Keep that in mind. The biggest also pro about a chemical stinger as well is that uh, it's not a lot of weapon switching. Keep that in mind. That will be a good thing for later on. There's just not a lot of weapon switching for our chemical stingers as much as other like Arcanas like EK or DD, but there is going to be some form of a weapon switch. So the biggest cons for a chemical stinger is that you're basically a glass cannon. Sure, you can kill that thing within like 2 hits or like one of your, like Arcana skills. But if it touches you, you're basically dead too. Your movement it's pretty mid. It's okay. It's pretty mid. It's not like the best. It's not like, the best like out of everyone. It's okay. You don't really have too much to keep in mind or anything like that. But just keep that in mind that, that's pretty much like where the biggest like cons aren't really these things. I guess the bigger one is the glass cannon part where it does punish you pretty harshly if you don't not really prepared for a fight. Just keep that in mind because you won't have like 90 protection at all, like a dark mage, and you won't have like 90 protection as an EK player as well. So you're pretty much the most glass cannon out of the entire group, out of all the Arcana group. So get prepared of getting like attacked by something out of nowhere and just dying almost immediately. No. Another big con about a chemical stinger, to be honest with you, and this one might sound kind of controversial. Uh, I'm gonna be honest with you. Biggest con about it is that it can really drastically change on race, and it's purely because of what they done with humans and elves. Personally, I wish they didn't did this because I think all races should be allowed to use any Arcana regardless of what race they are. Kind of a, I don't like that. I don't like the fact that a race is completely locked out of it, and they just don't want to make like some kind of like special thing for it. Personally, I don't like that race only game exactly. Another big con about a chemical stinger is that most of your damage comes from buffs. What I mean by just only purely buffs, I'm talking about like BFO, Bone Chip, um, catering, also getting stuff prepared before buffs and after buffs mostly. The mid buffs are just like normal like gameplay, but the before buffs and after buffs are pretty much necessary for like later game. Like I mean, super later game. Not really inside early mid, or I guess the beginning of late game you start to notice it pretty drastically. It's mostly because of the max attack itself and how it's calculated, but that's pretty much the pros and cons from this Arcana versus the other Arcanas. Keep this in mind. Another Arcana that does have the similar con is EK. The other two Arcana, such as Harmonic Saint and Dark Diviner, don't really have this issue because most of their like stats are just right there at that point. So just keep that in mind. This buff damage thing is more for before buffs than anything else. It's really drastic how much more before buffs actually do affect your damage, and I mean a lot. But that would be pretty much like the biggest con for pretty much any physical damage, though. So like physical range or like physical melee. Just keep that in mind as well. All right, so I'm gonna be honest with you. Elves can start at any time. Humans will need to get Eric 50s. Whoa! 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 What? No way! He just dropped the bomb. He just like completely ruined a bunch of people's like dreams about this thing. Yeah, I'm sorry. Akamako's Singer is just not really that playable for humans. It's actually really hard for humans to play a chemical singer when starting out. Like, I mean, it is super punishing, and I mean that it is ridiculously annoying for any beginner player or like mid player to like actually handle a chemical singer. You just have way too much downtime, and that's not the whole point of a chemical. A chemical singer is supposed to be this constant, like high APM of like constantly guessing. Like, I mean, constantly shooting, and I mean constantly shooting. This is why they have such a high DPS and really like constant, basically the highest DPS out of any of the other Arcanas. It is the best DPS. It just doesn't have a good burst like DD, and it doesn't have the survivability as DD and EK. It just has the highest DPS because of it constantly having no cooldowns. And that's the thing. As a human, you have a cooldown on your Magnum shot, which is basically your bread and butter for a chemical stinger. And that's kind of the main issue for it. But I will talk about what you can do as a human if you ever wanted to get into a chemical stinger. Because, oh, I'm human. I really enjoy archery. It's really fun. That's fine. That's Danny and stuff. Just know you're going to have a lot of downtime and you will be relying on other skills such as Arrow Revolver or even like Crash Shot. So just keep that in mind. It's just really hard to upkeep versus like any other race like elves. All right, so we talked about the early game. It looks quite similar to Dark Diviner, except for one exception. There is one red upgrade here because red upgrade is basically the best for any physical damage. And you probably also notice that the Smolderings are actually down here instead of up here where the priority list is. Um, this is this is mainly because at Chemical Stinger's Link isn't that really big importance, even at Link 6. Link 6 actually really improves it drastically. But nothing past that, and it's so early into the game as well. You don't really need to like go out of your way for it or really need to purchase any of this stuff. You can really just take your time on a Link. It's nice to have, don't get me wrong, and you would drastically see a difference once you hit Link 6. But it's honestly not that big of a deal as well, as most of your damage will actually be dependent on your reforges instead. So just keep that in mind. Smolderings and Links for Chemical Singer aren't as Dark Diviner or EK. It's actually one of the more arcanas that do rely more on reforges than anything else. Link 9 does make a huge change for it because of the extra 50% more damage while within the range. But believe me, this being in this range within 15 meters might be actually kind of more of a disadvantage than more of an advantage, depending on the situation you're in. But we will talk about that more later on. All right, so let's talk about the beginning gear. All right, I know you guys are going to be really crazed out to see what's in there right now. Like, what am I looking at, right? Like, wait a minute. Hang on. Hang on. Look, okay. I know. I see it too. I have thought about it and I really worked out the map for it. And I have went ping ponging back and forth of what the best situation you can do when you're in like mid level to get into late game, right? Or like even early to mid game. And look, okay, this is honestly pretty much the best option you will have for like a solid minute. I know a lot of you are going to be like what? That's not a bow. I know that in the beginning in the slideshow you guys saw these two. Look, man, I'm gonna be honest with you. The reason why Bladden was so huge here is because Bladden crossbow is just really powerful for what it is. It's really good. It's ridiculously good. It's honestly kind of disgusting how good it is. I have made multiple fights with myself because of this stupid crossbow. I had argued constantly with myself. I've been trying to see what can make it like so much worse. Like I really tried. I really did. I constantly fought with myself about what's going on with this crossbow. I really tried to. Like Celtic bow exists now, right? Because that's what the whole point of it. It was supposed to have this gate cap, you know. It was supposed to be the bladed crossbow to the, you know, to the Celtic bow to make a difference, right? Instead of a Celtic crossbow. Because, you know, people in KR were pretty upset that you have to use a Celtic crossbow instead of a Celtic bow to start erging. Which, personally, I think is kind of crazy that they even thought that, to be honest with you. I don't think anyone was thinking that. I'm not going to lie. But that's what the game dev said. They said it felt kind of unfair that you can't get started on your ego on a bow versus a crossbow like the Bladden one or the Celtic crossbow. So that's the reason why they created the Celtic bow, was to help out with that, just to help out that you don't need to you know, spend too much from your spirit ego transfer, or like get started on your ego and transfer it later on. I'm gonna be honest with you, brother. If you're egoing like a Celtic bow for that reason, then I'm just gonna say this right now, brother. It legitimately costs like 900k, like not even like a mil, not even when you hit it at level 63. Okay, you have that money. Don't even try to pretend that you don't. Okay, you clearly do, and don't even try to like hide it or anything like that. Yeah, it's 5 mil at level 100, but at level 63, it's legitimately like 700k. I don't think it even hits that high. Like anywhere before like level like 90, I think it's 85 actually when it starts hitting the 1 mil mark. Yeah, exactly. I don't know why they gave that game, that dev gave that like explanation of why it was so annoying and why they created the bow. I'm gonna be honest, I think the reason why they created the bow is just so they could just close whatever like Celtic weaponry there is and just create new Celtic weapons for the fun of it. I'm gonna be honest. The Celtic bow is kind of a trap, to be honest with you. So, but yeah, I have did multiple arguments with this thing. I have fought myself constantly with this thing. The only thing that the Celtic like bow has over the Bladed crossbow is the signets. And I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. I don't think you're gonna be farming the signets, bro. I'm pretty positive you're going to be getting your chemical stinger when you're done with Bladed, right? You know, you're getting your Bladed. You already have a chemical stinger. You're doing techs already, brother. What are you doing? You're not gonna go out of your way to get signets, you know. It's you're not gonna do that, okay? No one's gonna do that. But yeah, I think having a blended crossbow for the longest time is perfectly fine. And I'm gonna be honest with you, with the prices of Perseus, like materials for the crossbow, let me show you this right now, okay? Mind you, this map was created when these illusion things, right, were about like around 300k or something like that, right? These bad boys, right, are 1 mil each. You know how much a crossbow will cost? It costs almost 16 mil to create. You know what other bow costs that much and don't provide that much at all? Huh? Huh? That's cool and all right. Except, why in God's heaven would anyone want to spend this much on an arrow? Come on. It's weaker. I don't know why anyone would ever want to buy the Bahalful Huntress when you can legitimately buy the Perseus one for 1.1 mil and the crossbow or the bow instead. Plus, what if I told you this, guys, this right now, that the special bolts just do better? Huh? No, they don't. None of the crossbows have any ultimate arrows unless they have their ultimate unlocked on their ego. I think that's legitimately the only reason why people like to make that argument. Um, Personally, if you're inside a mid game, right, you could just buy these bolts. You can legitimately buy them, by the way. You could just buy them from the NPC, like any NPC that's a weapon shop. Like legitimately, go here, go here, and then there you go. There's bolts right there. Those are just the normal, right? You know that I don't get it. Or you could just make the special ones. You know, it it doesn't really require that high level of handicrafting. I think that's pretty much the best part about it is that you don't really need a lot, like a high level handicrafting for the special bolts. Especially when these bolts are so common inside Beltane as well. They are such a common thing to get from the boxes. They're crazy. And I'm pretty sure if I look them up right now, right? There you go. Some handmade bolts right there. Just three of them there. Oh, look, the sharp ones right there. For full stack 1K of them for 85K. I don't know, man. That's pretty cheap. I'm not gonna lie. Oh, a special bundle of 5K for 1.2 mil? I don't know, man. Are you using 5K bolts every day? I'm pretty positive this will take you at least, like, what? At least a full week? If you're not making that 1.2 mil within a full week, I don't know what you're doing. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, these things are really great. They're pretty cool. They're pretty powerful. Oh, the heck? What am I looking at? Oh, hey. No, but yeah, special bolts, they have a 10% damage of like damage on them that the arrows do have as well. Keep in mind that the Perseus arrows have a 50%, right? But they also have some max. But here's the thing. They are losing 2 piercing from the crossbow. That's the biggest thing. From the bow versus the crossbow is just better because of its piercing, and also just because it's just overall cheaper versus the bow. Because the bow you would need to invest in basically the same amount of materials plus the arrow on top of it. And Behalful is just not worth it, especially for the arrow, when the arrow and bow themselves are 10% versus the Perseus one, which will give you that extra 10% speed on it. You really don't need to really worry about it as much, and it's just a lot more healthier and a lot easier to have because go to the Perseus dynamic crossbow, right? And you see that right there, that range attack starting aim adjustment a plus 10% that maxes out to 14%. This actually gets pretty high pretty easily, especially with 4 elves. I can stack it with Vision Aladaga that starts them at 400% aiming speed. This actually can get your aiming speed pretty much similar to Demolition Weapon, just like that. And it only costs us around like below like 15 mil. So it's a really good upgrade if you really want to get into it. I strongly recommend the crossbow versus the bow purely because of its piercing and because the bolts versus the arrows for them are too similar in multiple ways. It's also because this has actually longer range than the bow. If you didn't know, it actually has exactly 200 more range versus the bow, which is actually a lot better even when reforged. And do you want to know what the difference is from ER, right? Effective range reforge. The big difference is that if you get this with level 20 versus a bow at level 20, this will basically have an extra level on it, which is 21 versus 20. And that 21 can actually make a difference when it comes to aiming when closing in targets. No, not at all. It's actually really weird to see that the bow doesn't have this upgrade at all. And what I mean by, when it comes to the aiming speed on it, a good example is this bow right here. This has ER effective range 18, right? So what happens when I come really close to this target right here, right? You can see that I load up to 100 within a second, right? Now, if I just get away from it, right? Let's just say I have the effective range from all the way over here. See how that takes a little while? That's a big difference from both of them. That little extra bit of it is the main difference from it. that just little bit of extra damage, right? That little bit extra time that you get from it loading up, that's the difference from both the bow and the crossbow for the Perseus weapons. When it comes to just like the Bladden and the Celtic crossbow, there is no difference from each other besides that the Bladden one is just straight up just for free, 100%, and the Celtic one can be reforged. But this one already has ER10 on it, so you might as well just keep it and not even invest into the Celtic one, to be honest with you. You should honestly just save up to make the Perseus crossbow as one of your bigger leaps of purchases. And then I know I have these like random gauntlets and hats. I'm gonna be really honest with you. I think the biggest purchase that you should do as your first purchase as a chemical stinger after you make your Perseus bow is getting Magnum Shot. Magnum Shot is really powerful. It is absolutely really cheap too. Let me just show you how ridiculous it is at times just to see a Magnum Shot that's level 20 on any like random like there we go. There's a pair of male ones right there for 8, 12, 14. See if we can find a 20, shall we? There's a 17 right there, and that's only 12 mil. Ooh, 18 right there for 14. 18 right there as well, 15. 17, 18. Those are pretty good for those prices already. There's a 19 for 20. There's a 19 right there for again for 20. Let's see if we can find that in Magnum Shot 20. Ooh. Not sponsored, by the way. No, I'm not sponsored. It's just Magnum Shot gloves are very important, by the way. You get the crossbow first, and then you get the Magnum Shot. It doesn't matter what gloves you have, by the way. It absolutely does not matter. The biggest thing you really need to focus on is getting the reforges before anything. It doesn't matter what kind of equipment you be wearing, and I will talk about that a lot more here. Um, the next biggest thing I would say as a chemical singer when it comes to purchasing things, if you want more of a quality of life, something that helps you out when it comes to dungeon speeds or like help out when it comes to clearing stuff a lot faster, I would strongly recommend Crash Shot Range. Crash Shot Range is a really large quality of life. Crash Shot Range is nice to scoff at as well. It does not affect any of your chemical stinger skills, by the way, but it is really nice to see that one of your fragment shots just hits like a random target just from God knows where, and it hits them like dead bullseye in the eye, you know? Really big, really noticeable, really nice quality of life. I really strongly recommend it. But they are really cheap though. Crash Shot Fragment Range are pretty cheap, they're pretty common as well. They're really easy, nice to get as a chemical stick. So, after this upgrade first, right? Like this, all of this alone is about like 40 mil, right? Let's just say at most 60 mil, right? Compared to Dark Diviner, you're already saving about like 40 mil from Dark Diviner versus a Chemical Stinger right now as a elf. But then that's when all the fun gets ruined because the next upgrade you're going to be doing after like you get these 2 reforges right and this bow is when it becomes really hard. Bam. Oh, this is me actually talking about the reforges. Sorry. Bam. There we go. Your next biggest upgrade will be the demolition bow. Your biggest next upgrade from a Perseus crossbow to a demolition bow. Keep in mind, you do have the piercing level to do tech to win missions. Pretty perfectly fine. You have 4 piercing. This is more than enough piercing that you need for any tech to win mission. It's actually really impressive. It's really cool. But if you really want to push it a lot more, you can get a demolition, which will also be 4 piercing, but you also get the effects of the Magnum Shot. A lot more damage for your Magnum Shot, as well as the critical effects, and you also get enhanced durability saved. But this is also when you start focusing on other reforges as well, such as more quality of life stuff, such as fast shot, fragment, max range, not max range, max targets. You could get it up to 5 more on the body, and then on the boots, you're gonna be pretty much trying to aim for like water efficiency, fire efficiency, air efficiency, earth efficiency. From the top, from the bottom, the best one is water than fire. And then if you really want to, you can also focus on air. Earth is kind of iffy. It's a little odd. It's okay. It does well for what it is, but it's kind of weird. It's more of a kind of more like a debuffer than anything else. I'll explain a little bit more about it. But yeah, the most of the reforges that you'll be focusing on as a chemical stinger will be Magnum Shot, ER range on your crossbow. It'll be max damage on the crossbow or bow. Ellie is actually something I want to explain later on. Crash on damage is actually pretty good for a chemical stinger. Those do go on the gloves, but I do strongly recommend that you should focus more on the Magnum Shot than really Mash Shot. If you can get both of them, then go ahead, but don't loosen up on the Magnum Shot. What I mean by that is that if you see a Magnum Shot 20 versus a Magnum Shot 18 with Crash Shot 10, don't even bother getting it. Like, don't even try to get it. If you see something that's like Magnum Shot like 20 versus a Magnum Shot like 17 with a Crash Shot 16, don't even bother trying to get that other pair. Just get the Magnum Shot 20. It's that big of a drastic change on Magnum Shot reforges because it's just that big of damage, especially when it comes to accessories. That 3 extra levels versus the 2 levels, it's huge. It is super noticeable. If you guys are new, having Magnum Shot accessories is always going to be better than having creepy haunteds without Magnum Shot. It's just that big of a damage difference. It's just that good. Crash Shot. So Crash Shot range is really nice of a quality of life. Water, fire, air, and earth are really big damage increases for your alchemical shooter. These are only boot reforges. Keep that in mind. And Crash Shot count is only for body. So for elemental, the reason why I bring in elemental is because of raid reasons. You guys are actually pretty good when it comes to raids. So it's really helpful to have that kind of things. Pretty much helpful. You should share the map behind that if you have it. I don't have the map for it. I do have the map for the Earth one. Or do you mean the Crash Shot versus Magnum Shot when it comes to what's it called? Plume and Hydro Pierce. There they are. You should already know. Magnum Shot will always be better because of just reforge levels by themselves. Crash Shot doesn't have a higher reforge number. It also falls drastically behind when it comes to Plume. Well, actually, that's not fully true. Crash Shot damage actually affects Plume pretty drastically. It's just that whenever it comes to Magnum Shot and which one you're going to be using a lot more when it comes to your rotation, it can really drastically change from how much damage you'll be outputting because you're going to be Magnum Shotting a lot more than Crash Shotting. It's just really nice to have the Crash Shot a lot more, like as a side thing, than really having it as a Magnum Shot thing. But comparing from each other, like from a Magnum Shot 20 glove versus a Magnum Shot like 17 with a 17 Crash Shot, would it be overall more damage? Um, it's hard to say personally because of 2 main factors. It's because of how long cooldown Plume is versus Hydro Pierce. Because Hydro Pierce from those 3 levels for Magnum Shot can really make a bigger difference too. That's the main issue. It's that you're trying to compare Hydro Pierce versus Plume, and then comparing Magnum Shot, just normal attacks in between those two, and that's the biggest concern when it comes to the math. It's like it's like you're trying to versus like shooting it like constantly, and like yeah, that's the thing. Like Mag 20 is a lot of damage, and it's really like a big difference from Mag 18 as well. I think I would make an argument of Mag 19 versus 20 are almost kind of the same, and you can still see the difference. It's like a 2K difference. Keep in mind, this is not being BFO'd as well. That's the thing. When a BFO comes into calculations with Bone Chip as well, that 2K can drastically change from 2K from like 6K, 8K, and I don't that alone is what really makes the difference from the Reforged, and that's why the Magnum Shot levels are always like drastically really well. That's why whenever I see Magnum Shot 20 on my roof on my accessory, it gets me annoyed because that's 1 extra like level of Magnum Shot that I'm missing, killing on Hydro Pierce and just having it inside a normal rotation of damage as well. It's just it really irks me that I have one missing level about it too. It's just there is a lot of math behind it, and it's just really hard to calculate all of it just purely because I just don't have a Magnum Shot and Crash Shot glove together. It's just the main argument for it right now is that it's that a crash shot is really nice. Plume is really nice. Don't get me wrong. Plume has a lower cooldown than Hydro Pierce, right? You're always going to use Plume first before Hydro Pierce. But like is just Plume is just really nice. It has AoE. It's like a circle. It's a dome. It's really nice to have, and it's really easy to consistently have it upkeep too. It also can take advantage of both fire and water, just like Hydro Pierce. The thing is, it's just falls drastically off if you don't have any crash shot damage on it too. But like it's better to just have fire alchemy efficiency boots and the water efficiency echo stone instead, or the other way around. It's just getting a crash shot fragment on an echo stone would just be absolutely absurd. It's just it's just asking for so much from crash shot when it's kind of more treated as a secondary thing. Uh, let's crash shot numbers, damage, no damage. Just the chance of rolling. Hang on. Chance of rolling for a crash on damage is just so low. It's like I think it's a 0.5% chance on an Echo Stone. Uh yeah, there it is. We have the crash shot max damage breath there as a 0.1% chance. It's like, man, no, I agree. You're going to definitely be running both black and yellow at the same time. It's just really hard to like do the calculations for both of them without having them myself. Plus, even if I did the calculations, because of Plume hitting 3 separate times and each one can crit, right? It can really change the math on what's going on with it. Even if I did put them as the same crit number constantly, it can drastically just change because of one level difference. And I think that's the main issue with it right now, because whenever I tried to calculate it when I used to be Akaboko Singer myself, it was just a huge argument of going back and forth for which one I really wanted. Then I just kept keeping with the Magnum Shot 20 instead versus the 1818 that me and Lothar saw. Biggest reason is because of this. There is a lot of arguments when it comes to a Kamako Singer because of two things, and those are the biggest two things I need to talk about here. And it's what's it called? The elements that you're going to be using. A big thing about it is the air and fire, and then water and fire. Air and fire can set off by 6 times, and it's actually pretty comparable damage if you have air and fire, and if you don't have any like effective like elements at all, it actually is better because it has a higher chance of setting off rebounder, and that's the thing. It has a higher chance to set off Reaper. It has a higher chance of damage. It just has more chances of setting off crit as well. And then logically, right, you'll be using fire and water a lot more because of Hydro Pierce. So you're going to be using that a lot more. So it's better to run it that way. It's still more damage over fire or air, even if you get a fire air Echo Stone, right? Versus a fire water. The fire water would still deal more damage on Plume just because you can have a difference just because of the difference from 3 hits versus the 6 hits, because the 6 hits can easily be immune. I don't know. It's just there's just a lot behind it, and there's just not enough information for Plume itself. No matter how much times I have done the calculations on it, I think I could bring it up on my old computer. Hang on, let me see if I can load up my old computer of what my calculations were on Plume. No, Paimon actually did the math for fire air, and it's actually pretty strong for what it is. And there was an argument for it for a long time because of Reaper reasons, because it does hit 6 times, right? Not for the Reaper body, just purely because of the Reaper chance. Having it set out 6 times, right? Increasing the Reaper chance is actually pretty drastic too with RO set effects. And because Reaperware came out afterwards as well, it really made it look really cool and really fantastic. But then I started doing more tests with air and fire on barricades versus air and fire versus air and water. And air and water just did more damage overall because it was able to just get those like harder hits constantly. So the harder hits, right, would just be having the Reaper like hit higher as well times too. So it was just overall better, right? But it's just there's just so much to calculate from each other versus each other. I personally think fire water is still better I personally do think that. I definitely do think that. And I tested this out with fire, water, both of them 19, and then I tested out with fire, air, both of them being 19. And every single time I killed a barricade, the barricade that was affected by fire water always died first. I kept constantly testing it out, and I tested it on Raccoon to see the damage difference. It's really hard to see because there's six damage numbers popping up versus the three. But like the three, whenever the three do crit, you can definitely see the difference. But whenever the six like shoot outright, that's the thing. There's like multiple chances of it critting, right? It can crit on the first one, it cannot crit on the second one. It can crit on the third one, it cannot crit on the fourth or fifth or sixth. And that's the thing. I think that's my issue with the air one. Is that sometimes it crits, sometimes it doesn't. And if I really wanted all of them, all six to crit versus all three to crit, I would still argue that the water fire is still better. It's just really annoying to just like see it in person and keep constantly testing it because the chances of it setting off like that completely is just it's not like impossible. It will happen. It will happen. It's just the chances of like repeating it over and over. It's just mind-boggling. Like you wouldn't believe how long I stayed inside provocations for, just constantly doing that and showing it to Lathara, and he was just like, "Bro, this is really fucking boring." It's the same reason for Crash Shot too. It's just staying in one place and calculating it constantly too. I'm also just thinking about like Magnum Shot versus Crash Shot when it comes to. Sorry, I'm still blinding you guys with that white spreadsheet. Because mind you, most of your damage is also from Magnum Shot. Plume is excellent. Don't get me wrong. Plume is really powerful. I'm just thinking about what you're going to be doing in between, especially as a mid-level player, when you don't have Magnum Shot always available for you. Especially for a human, like the next best thing you have if you don't have Earth 50S is pretty much Arrow Revolver. And I'm gonna be honest, Arrow Revolver reforges are not really worth it. They look really funny though. I really like testing them out though. They were really fun to play around. They made no sense at all though. I don't know what's the point of the Arrow Revolver extra range, by the way, especially when you're like can't even aim at the thing really far away in the first place. And whenever you're in that range, right, where the reforge should be active, and you shoot him, it loads up the like the bow like so slowly. It's like, brother, who thought this was a good reforge? And then it tells you, sorry, you're out of range. Like, don't get me wrong. Once they updated Crash, not Crash, once they updated, I just said it, Arrow Revolver, right? It had almost the same amount of damage output as Magnum Shot, but then they updated Magnum Shot, and that Magnum Shot was once again better than Arrow Revolver. It just made no sense. It was just really funny that they updated Arrow Revolver to be as powerful as Magnum Shot, but then they updated Magnum Shot to be better. Really funny. But yeah, I still will make the argument about the water and fire just being better. Arrow Revolver is just a healing skill now. Of course, brother. Uh, for the Ellie right here, so the Ellie is mostly for raids, not really anything. Honest with you, it's mostly for raids. You can use it inside like dungeons as well. Not anything below Phantasm, however. Just keep that in mind that your Ellie damage will be calculated completely different depending on the dungeon. Um, Ellie can be powerful. It's just it won't be useful like anything past Phantasm. A good example is Sede, so the fish caves, Echo Stones. It doesn't work in there. Doesn't work in Phantasm. Doesn't work in any text. Doesn't work in Crom. Doesn't work in Glenburna. From what I'm aware, it does work in Chronicles, but it does not work on the boss, which is kind of weird. But that's just from hearing stuff. I haven't tested that myself personally. But I would agree. I would assume something silly like that will happen inside the Chronicles though, which is weird. Not sure why. Ellie is excellent inside Rondo Advance, Albi Advance, and Sire Advance. Really good in there. Really good for raid style Elemental. Just not anything past Black Dragon or White Dragon. This is also including like Moku and Selvin Dragon. Those four you can't use with Ellie at all. You will see your damage drastically just drop down to the bottom of the board, bro. But Ellie's pretty good though. It's pretty good for like early game to mid game. It's really cool, really nice. Nice to have, you know. I just don't really depend on it though. Is what I'm trying to say about it. It's nice, but just don't depend on it. Is all. It will get pretty outdated pretty fast. If you could get like ER range with max damage, you're pretty much set, right? Um, I should say this right now. ER is a lot more important than these two by far. Having the extra ER range is just fantastic for a huge quality of life and more damage overall. It's just really nice to have like a ER 20 versus like a ER like 15 max 20. Um, oh shoot, do I remember the math of this? Hang on. No, ER range does not help with Crash or Magnum Shot. However, ER does affect where you're going to be from your chemical shooter, though. And this will be drastically changing once 9. So whenever you're in Link 9, you gotta get that extra 15% damage, right? Within 15 meters. If you're 15 meters away, right, and you're trying to Magnum Shot something, and it loads up really slow because you have max damage 20 on your bow, brother, I'm sorry to say, it's not the way. And that's the big difference from ER versus max damage. Sure, you can have max 20 on it, go nuts. Sure, you can probably be at the like very edge of like the range of 15 meters, but you're going to be loading up your arrow pretty slowly, even with a ruination. It's gonna take at least 2 seconds just to get it up to around 80%. And that's the thing. You're depending on the percentage of what your range is on top of your bar. You're going to see it constantly. You gotta hit that thing constantly up to 100%. You have to if you're gonna do be full damage. Yeah, most people will be spamming Magnum Shot. Oh, you'll be getting it to 100. Trust me, it's actually a lot easier than Alex. Especially with this crossbow right here. This actually starts you off from 10 from instead of 0, which is actually quite friendly. Really nice to. It's actually quite noticeable. Um, Ruination starts you at 30, and then Demolition starts you at 20. And then if you have the benefits, I haven't really talked about buffs, but for elves, you guys do have an aiming speed of 400%. This actually does make a huge difference from just being just like a slow load and from a faster load. And another skill that's actually supported for both humans as well and elves. Relentless Assault actually does support it as well. Relentless Assault increases your aiming attack by 200%. It's actually quite noticeable for humans. It's not as noticeable on elves personally from my experience. That's why I removed it personally. But it is noticeable overall though. It's really nice to notice it. It can make a difference from being like a simple like 2 seconds to 1.5 seconds or seconds to 1 second or from 1 second to 0.5 seconds. That's a huge difference, especially if you're spamming it with your ping. I could get it to 100%. What do you mean? I got it to 100% constantly. Unless it's because of my aiming. I didn't have that issue at all. Especially in Glen Burna, I always constantly had it high. But I think that's purely because of Visional Adaka given 400%. I'm not gonna lie. That 400% is so. It's really good. Like, it's drastically noticeable. Yeah, Vision. I kind of disagree with that part on the ER. ER really it makes a difference to how much damage you're. Well, the closer you are, the faster it does load up, and if you can get it constantly at a perfect size, especially for Link 9. Keep in mind that Link 9 at 15 meters, you get some more extra damage. Mario, there you are. 9, where's the Link? No, it has to be time. Yeah, there it is. It's 1% per meter, up to max of 15. Oh, that's just a ping issue, brother. I'm sorry to say. The ER will still be nice to have, though. Like, even if you have that ping, right? A good example is a friend of mine that lives in Brazil, right? He can only shoot one magnum shot versus me, who can shoot up like up to 3 or 4 before he shoots the second one, right? But he still uses ER purely for quality of life reasons. Having that long range far away from targets is also pretty nice, and having increased damage. It also just loads up his like speed whenever it comes to crash shot as well, even if it takes him a bit to shoot it out. A good example is whenever you're running inside a dungeon, right? And if you have ER20 on your crossbow or like a bow, right? And you just shoot that crash shot, it can make a difference from just having it at like 60% versus 80%. Yeah, exactly. It's just having the ER is just more friendly and more consistent of having that damage uptime. You can have it up to like hitting 60%, and it can make a really difference from having it from hitting it pretty low from like around the 50% up to like 60, 70. Because when I used to do it, right, I usually hit it like around like 90%, like constantly, and sometimes 100% constantly. I think that was mostly because of my vision, though. I'm not gonna lie. Now that I think about it, I'm pretty positive that's purely because of vision. Fate also gives speed on. Fate also provides. Stop that. Fate also provides like aiming speed on it too, so it can also drastically change its AOR. Nah, it doesn't want to show it. Yeah, that's fine. I think Elite 12 would be better for just only dungeons. But I'm talking about like whenever it comes to you starting out the game or to like mid game, or if you get into like late game, the Ellie is not going to help out much. But if you want to just only do dungeons and only raids, then the Elite 12 will be better overall. It'll be more helpful. You will constantly deal a lot of damage. You will honestly probably kill everything constantly as well. But you can't deny that the ER with Ellie would be nice too. Pushing raids? Oh man, I can't imagine trying to shoot like anything in the same range as purification. Ugh, that purification breath that the dragons do. Oh man, I don't know why that reaches so far, bro. That's crazy how far it reaches. It's like, brother, how can you petrify me from like 20 miles away? No. And that's why I have a petrification set now. I didn't need to make one at all when I had a rune bow. It was just so much easier just to shoot it from far away. People still do raids. Of course, people still do raids. It's pretty decent cash. You gotta keep doing raids if you want to keep doing erg. Gotta keep up that erg. Erg is very popular. Like on bows, it's very powerful on bows too. The 2 second crash shot, beautiful. Nine shop constantly off cooldown for humans. Ah, the dream. Just get BMEs, all you need. That's really if you really want to. I think people don't really try to farm like passes if they really want to, or they can always just do raids, just pretty much almost the same output, especially if they're just doing it by themselves or low percentage chance of items. You can just buy the items. What do you mean? You can buy divine minerals and just sell them. People will always buy divine minerals. A lot of people still erg. And when I mean a lot of people, I mean a still decent amount of people still do. It's actually kind of crazy. Surprising. I thought I was like, man, I don't think anyone ergs. And then I started erging. And I was like, dang, a lot of people here erging. I thought erg kind of died off. I'm not gonna lie because of DD and Chemical Stinger. But I guess people still want to erg, especially two-handed swords. That one seems to be popular too for some reason. Not sure why. I think another one I see that's pretty common as a erg nowadays. His Stafford is really powerful too. Yeah, a new player going to raids, they can still enjoy it. It's not too harsh or too punishing as well, especially with an inside a team of friends as well. The only thing that might take a long while, definitely, but I have noticed a lot of people have been beginning that they need some help whenever they need raid. I usually go there and help out, and I'm like, oh yeah, I can help out. Why not? They still get a lot of a lot of decent amount of points because they've been there for a lot while, but then they just start killing it. And sometimes people like me who just like to wait to kill on the next one, let the other players attack it for a little while because I know I would kill it pretty fast, and that would just seem kind of rude just to kill it faster than them and take all the points. That's me personally. I know some folks that really dislike raids because of that, because a lot of people who are really stronger than them can really take over it. That can happen at times, but they also can just stick Ellie on their bow and they can do a lot of damage as well. It's not a lot of investment to do raids. What I mean not a lot of investment is that you really just need to get Ellie on it, at least Ellie 6 on it, and you're perfectly fine even following. And this can be depending on any weapon as well. You can do it with a two-handed, with EK. You can do it with even a stinger, with even a Celtic crossbow or like a Celtic bow. I would recommend the Celtic crossbow because of the shooting more though. And I will also recommend Ellie Knuckles. Ellie Knuckles are really powerful too. Anything with Ellie can like solo the raid pretty perfectly fine, even as a lower level too. Their raids are quite friendly for what they are. I think the only reason why people really dislike them is because they can be really punishing, and other players can really make it very like unfun, especially more powerful players. Uh, Mostly like people like me who can just go there casually and just right within like matters of like a minute, not even a minute of you. But I think if you're just gonna be doing that, right, you should just be just like doing like a dungeon, enjoying yourself or having fun with other things. I also agree that anything that's beyond like mid game, right, which is like Tekken Chroms or Glen Normals, Ellie won't really help out as much, especially when you're trying to focus on your Kana levels instead, as all that stuff is pretty mid game now. I did mention earlier ago that mid game is usually just you just doing your early game will be usually just you renown, rebirthing, doing techs. Yes, I know, early game techs, yes. I think it's definitely doable, especially for anyone that's early into like game because of normal versions. I don't think people should focus too hard whenever starting out the game. Focus on doing the hardest difficulty. They can honestly just do the normal version just to start getting more smoldering or like crystals as well and the reforges. It's perfectly fine. I think it's perfectly a lot more viable that way as well. I just like seeing people like purchase Brio crystals because that's a bummer. I don't know why people want to buy Brio crystals when you get them for free from just opening up boxes from more versions, or you can just get a friend um to like what's it called? The bigger crystals, right? Hang on. Do I have any bigger? No. Ugh, these bad boys. They cost 68.9K just to buy a stack of it. When you can just legitimately just fragment them, right? Just to get the like like the cheaper one. They're 3.9K per they're 3.9K per one versus like 600 GP. Just fragmenting these give you like 300 of them. You do need a decent level of fragmentation though. You need to be at least like rank 6, but I strongly recommend rank 1. It is about like 80% just to fragment them into versions. But if you really want to increase the chance, you can always rain and wait for Saturday. And that'll be 300 of these bad boys. And I'm pretty sure you only need like around like 600, 500 of these bad boys. It's just really crazy to me to see these things being more expensive at 3.9K versus these ones when you can just fragment these ones for basically small ones. I think that's insane. What's up, area? I moved by accidentally. But yeah, I think Ellie for like early game, getting into mid game is perfectly fine. Like for dungeons and raid, they can have fun with it. At this point of the game, they pretty much will have like enough gold and even resources at the point where they can have their own Perseus weapon as well and all that. Especially a Perseus crossbow, where it only costs at most like 15 mil right now. It's really nice. It's really doable. I think a Chemical Stinger, when starting out, is probably like the cheapest build out of any of the other builds. I would argue that EK is a little bit more expensive for one reason, but that one reason is actually achievable as well at that point of the level. And that's nice. Yeah, G25 is really important for Prague. I also want to mention that as a human, when you're getting your demolition bow for the first time, right? You're basically going to start to erg. It's gonna be really merciful for like humans at this point of the game. I'm sorry. Don't get me wrong. Ur 50s versus a Ruination, right? The Erg is a lot cheaper, but it is so much more like it is such it's so much more nicer than going for the Ruin. I'm sorry. It's just the Erg itself. Like Erg 50s is around 700 mil, right? It's like everything on top of it. Hey, what's up, Emily? The thing is, saving up for a rune is nice too. Don't get me wrong. The difference from having a demolition weapon versus a rune weapon is drastically. It's really right. It can make a difference when it comes to DPS. It can really that piercing. It can really make a difference with its enchants. Don't get me wrong. The enchants from demolition to ruination do step up like drastically. It is ridiculously nice. You wouldn't believe how long you're going to be having like hunter, like lion hunter, and like Robin Hood or something like that, or Rocket shoot like Rocket or something like that. That's a soft fix. Oh man, it is drastically a huge difference to get a Ruination bow that has like heavy rain on it. Oh man, it's like heavy rain has both the prefix and suffix for that demolition has. It's just that good. But yeah, no. If anything, I think at this point of the game, right, you have a demolition, you're doing your tech hard mode like versions now. You're doing Chrome 30s now, you're enjoying everything here. I'm sorry, what? What do you mean I'm sorry, what? What the enchants? Heavy rain versus demolition bow? There's like shit all for demolition, like anything comes to demolition bow. Heavy rain? No, heavy rain, what's it called? Last breath, that's what it is. You're right, downburst. Fuck it. Nah, it's last breath. Last breath versus like any other like enchant when it comes to like archery, right? No, I was talking about last breath. I was thinking about heavy rain because I was like, man, what was the enchant called again? It was heavy rain or something. No, heavy rain's a one-handed. It's a one-handed enchant. But nah, the last breath from Ruination is ridiculous. It's really nice. It has basically both the enchants that this bad boy has and overcomes them drastically. But yeah, you're pretty much stuck with this demolition for a solid minute. I'm not gonna lie. It's gonna be kind of hard to do this like this next upgrade. Keep in mind, this is still late game, right? You're just getting into late game. That's right. You're pretty much going as a human. You're going to be starting with an erg. It's pretty much necessary at this point. To be honest with you, you're gonna just have way too much downtime whenever you do something like Crom or like even like Glen. It's just gonna be way too much downtime. It's not really like you don't need it, of course, because you can arrow roller if you really want to. But if you really want to see a drastic change inside your rotation, you would definitely want to keep this erg. And for elves, you're pretty much going to be saving up for root just to get started from late game to early game. And then early in game just changes the prices of the like drastically. But this is pretty much the biggest jump from being like into like late game to like starting doing other stuff like Ram and all that. But you can definitely run with this right now. The setup right here with the demolition, with Magnum Shot, Crash Shot gloves, effective range, not effective range, uh, uh, water and fire efficiency. You can keep the blended body, honestly. You can reforge it to have crash shot. I wouldn't really recommend getting like anything that's like special or anything like that. I would talk about the special stuff later on when it comes to bodies. Um, and then the hat, you can get it as a quality of life if you want to. Just get it with Crash Shop. They're not really, it doesn't really need it. Like, even for the body, it doesn't really need it if you don't really want to. You don't really need to pick that up. It's more quality of life stuff. Like, these two items, the hat and the body, are more quality of life. But if you want to see more damage from your alchemical sphere, it's definitely the boots and gloves and the Echo Stone, the black and yellow one. Those will definitely do a lot more than just getting, like, the random Crash Shop body or, like, the Crash Out range hat. They're really nice for quality of life, like doing like dungeons, doing raids, doing like large AoE when it comes to Crom. It's really nice, you know. Large quality of life. Nice to have. Not needed. Nice to have though. And then I would talk about the last purchase items and the things you should definitely not buy like at all. And I do see them as a common mistake. I do call people out on them. I don't care who you are. I will call you out if you have any of this stuff. I'm sorry, they're just not that good. And I know they're kind of more of a trap and they just cost way too much for what their price are. I'm gonna be honest with you. Everything inside the bucket is just not worth it. So let's empty out the little bucket, see what's in there, and then I will talk about these four items over here on the right, and explain why they should be like last purchase items, like the very last like purchase items. First thing, speed boots. I'm gonna be honest. You're a chemical singer, brother. You might as well just anchor rush. You're already way far away. If you don't dodge whatever's trying to attack you from casually moving away, I'm gonna be really honest with you, man. You might as well just accept the death. I'm not gonna lie. These boots are not gonna make a difference for you. I'm not gonna lie. With good connection, 55 to 60. Oh yeah, then yeah, I was definitely my Shadow Walker that was getting me up pretty much up there to like 88, the 90s pretty constantly. But yeah, I'm gonna be honest. The speed boots on a chemical singer is not a. I'm not gonna lie. It's not gonna make a difference of you like moving it away from something. Like a chemical singer already gives you speed as well. I'm gonna be honest with you. As an elf, speed boots on top of like using your chemical singer stuff that gives you speed displaces you so crazy and constantly. It is insane how annoying it is. I threw these bad boys away like instantly when I saw that. I was like, nope, I'm not gonna get displaced because of random speed boots. You know, it's annoying enough to have it with as an elf with with wave sweeper. It's just annoying. It's just not. It's just not helpful. Okay, if you really need to get from point A to point B, just go on your corgi, bro. I don't know. Just go on your scooter ramp. Don't buy these. I beg of you. Don't buy speed boots. They're not good. Okay, just don't do it, man. Just anchor rush. Just grapple shot. Do something else. You really shouldn't get displaced or pushed because of these boots. Discounted for displacements. No, I don't think they should be discounted as displacement reasons. But they definitely should not be recommended for Akamaku, especially when you're already so far away from something, especially in Glen Hard mode. If you're gonna get hit by something, you might as well just rush it instead. I constantly keep moving out of it because I have the speed as an elf. You know, I could just casually walk away from it, like drop the shoot the magnet shot and just move. But that's not gonna compare to just having like 15% more extra speed or like 10% extra have a pair of boots. You know, versus an elf that could just casually just get a walk away or swap to your grapple shot or go to your to rush. You have a bunch of Dorka. You might as well use the resources, right? You have other sources than this. Gonna show me how to be endgame now. Now the endgame stuff is gonna be later on, probably next. I'm just showing the things that people oftenly try to purchase over other items a lot more priority when they really shouldn't be buying any stuff as a priority item. I strongly recommend speed boots as an as an upgrade or anything like that. I disagree with them personally because they just don't help out in any form of damage. They don't help out with any form of dodging. If anything, they just kind of give you a mindset of like, yeah, I can outrun it. When realistically, why? You can just dodge it. Just have your uptime more. There's no point of you just walking away from something. Movement speed boots are fine. they're okay for what they do. That's all what they did. Their movement speed, that's all they're for. But if you really think they're gonna be making a difference when it comes to prices, right? Like a good example is these boots alone can cost around like 80 mil, right? Like especially special elements of harmony. You're not moving a lot when you're a chemical stinger, by the way, which is really weird. Why they gave it a link? I have not a clue why they gave a chemical stinger movement speed at all. To be honest with you, really weird they did, but it's whatever. Um, but movement speed shoes are not going to help or make a difference when it comes to a chemical shooter. Most part, since most of your shots, most of your abilities either have you just kind of shoot it and then just move, or if you have something like Hydro Pierce where you just shoot it and then you get pushed backwards. Like I don't know what to say. Yeah, I used to be a chemical stinger, bro. I still didn't really move around that much, to be honest with you. I actually move a lot more as DD than a chemical shooter. And it's purely because I just kept having my uptime and Magnum Shop spamming stuff. That's all I really did. I just kept shooting at things. I was just far away from Glen Burna. I might as well just keep shooting at. Why do I need to keep moving? Only time I need to move is whenever I have a beam on me. And that's the thing. All the abilities have analog. So it's kind of weird why they gave this speed at all. Like that chemical link that gives speed. I'm not sure why they applied that, to be honest with you. It's noticeable. It's okay. Not sure why they applied it though. Not a clue. If anything, it just displaces me more than anything else, to be honest with you. I don't know. I just don't really have any good experience when it comes to these boots alone. They're just overpriced. They don't really help out when it comes to damage. You don't really constantly move too much as a chemical stinger personally, because most of the time I'm just either magging the thing, or if I really need to move, I usually just anchor rush to the spot where I need to go. Or if I really don't need to, then I will just accept it personally. I'd rather have the damage uptime than really constantly moving around. That's me personally, though. I'd rather be like fading the target, fading myself, shooting it constantly. I don't know. These bits are just not really that useful inside the long term, especially inside early game to mid game where most of your cash will be inside the demolition bow, as well as auto reforges. And I can't imagine spending like almost like 200 mil on a pair of these that just has like um that has water alchemy like 17 on it. It's pretty bad. I don't know why anyone would do that. There's like a perfectly good pair of boots that have like water alchemy 20 by themselves, and they're like around like 40 mil, but someone went out of their way to buy boots with alchemy 17 on them. I don't know. I personally, there's just not really. Well, attack delay hats. So as far as I'm aware, attack delay does not work on anything. Attack speed, however, attack speed does affect your normal range attacks and support shot. Yeah, there's no need for end game gear. Yeah, you can have it with all the cheap gear. I don't have barely any end game. Honest of you, I still wear blinded. There's kind of no point of it if you don't need it. You can do pretty much all the content in the game without it. Yeah, there's a big difference when it comes to end game gear and then max gear. Honest with you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, will carry you further than really the gear. So purchasing like things like these that you think will help you out are just not really worth it, especially when you're barely like starting out the game, get into like big game, right? There's really no reason to purchase these boots that don't really help out. There's no point of this attack delay hat that doesn't even support you or help out. I'd rather spend 10 minutes in a dungeon or 30 minutes. I don't know about that. I think if anything, when it comes to dungeons themselves, it really depends on what kind of archery skills you're using. Like you said yourself, you can just get LE12 on it and pretty much clear it. And I agree with that. You could do it with LE12 of any crossbow. You can pretty much clear it as fast as anyone else under 10 minutes. Heck, even I clear dungeons faster within minutes, and I just use control bars. But I don't need to use the control bars just to do that as well. I can fireball, I can use archery. And my archery is just, this random like it's just a random black dragon night bow. It doesn't even have Ilya on it. It's just random, completely random. And the only reason why I have it, right, is just in case my teammates need a support shot. I don't need my gear to break me back or like stop me from like doing 10 minutes or 30 minutes inside a dungeon. I can take advantage of like other things. I think Elite 12 alone will get you a 3 minute front though. I personally think that, yeah. Elite 12 by itself should get you more than enough. The most amount of targets that a dungeon can provide is 12 monsters. So all you need to do is crash out twice inside every single room. But that that was weird. Yeah, I can make one. It's not too hard. Elite 12 without anything else, without any reforges. I think it's quite doable. I can even do it right now if you like with on Fusion Ball too. Fusion Ball only can go up to 5 targets at a time. It would basically beat 12 as well. I'm just saying that you should really not let your gear like limit yourself on what you can do. You can take advantage of other things as well. You don't need to just only use archery in dungeons. You can use Crisis to gather all them up and then just boom once. You can even just simply just go in there and like Nova Obliteration, use it for like the one room. You can meteor like the harder rooms if you really need to. I don't think you should just be limiting to just one skill and just one like ability because of your reason. You have other options that can really help out and can really take advantage. You don't really need any like min-maxing or end game stuff to just like make a difference when it comes to time. And a really great example of a person who does that is Rora. Rora is a really good example of someone who has like completely under gear equipment and still makes like content for it and still kills the thing. Like it was really impressive to see Roa kill the Succubus Queen and Palms 30 with just the Celtic staff. Like sure he had an elemental body, right? And he had the magic attack on it with the blue upgrades. And it gave them exactly enough, about like 1.4k piercing, right? So he still had about 4 piercing with that Celtic staff. But that's the thing, that's 4 piercing versus everyone else that had like 9 piercing, unable to do it. And that's what really makes like that video so well. It's impressive. It's really nice to see. I personally still think that skill and knowledge about the game will be far better than just getting equipment. And that's why I'm showing off all this equipment that just like absolutely not. And it looks like legitimately stuff that you can get from like the very beginning. I strongly recommend just keeping Blanded and just keep it out to them pretty much the entire time. Just have it with you. Even with me, I used to have Blanded just laying around just casually too. Like I still have my Blanded and I still wear it. There's nothing bad with just wearing Bladed gear. I don't even have any of like the high tech stuff. Like there's one special wear right there. There's another one, but it's Saint Guardian. There's RO, but it's not even RO5, it's RO3. I still kept it. I'm still using it. It's a special troubadour right there. This isn't even mine, to be honest with you. It's a friend of mine who lent it to me. I can just use my other one that I got for free. There's another special outfit. It's just Saint Guardian again. These things are not expensive anymore. I guess the only real expensive thing I have really when it comes to special stuff is just the elemental body, which personally I don't really need, Frank. I can probably just sell it and just basically the same amount. Yeah, a lot of people could make it to floor 30, but it doesn't mean they would be able to complete floor 30. A lot of people would try to complete floor 30. The queen is pretty RNG. Aurora also shows like other reasons. And I can show it here right now as well. I even showed off just yesterday how powerful the difference is from skill and debuffing is. Because you really don't need a Lord of Ruination staff at all. I don't even need it at all, to be honest with you. Like, all you really need is just get with your buffs, understand your skills, take advantage of it, have fun with the game. And not because the DD is broken, no. You need this as well as just doing it just from melee as well. You really want to see? I don't even need to show it DD off as well. You can do it with control bars. You can do it with rev knuckles. You just need to properly like debuff the thing and allow yourself to take time on it. Don't just go straight into it and just, you know, throw all your stuff at it, like just random natty, you know? Just randomly, oh yeah, hang on, let me just throw my plume and explosion lunge and like EK like lightning smash it before anything else. Like, no, don't do that, man. Take your time on the boss. Look at the boss, learn it, take advantage of what it does, learn its movements, and just go on what it does, you know? Debuff it properly, buff up properly. Just don't let it be, you know? Don't let the bosses take advantage of you, where they can debuff you, kill you, and hit you. Don't do that. Take advantage of bosses. You know, they're big, they're large. Take advantage of it. A lot of bosses are really large, allowing smoke screen to be applied easily. A lot of large bosses also get affected by red ring. It's pretty simple. Just allow yourself to buff up with BFO. Put down the smoke screen right there. I missed it, but that's okay. I can always uppercut it to apply the little debuff on it. There's also Boning Mirror. Just wait for its iframe right here. Apply the Magic Hat. Give it a little of that. Put it there. And then with my Rev Knuckles I have, like, to be, without anything helping out. You can see that my damage already increased, like, drastically just by that alone. Like, I already did that amount of damage with 10%. And if I really want to go more, I can SS it, Raging Packet, and just give it another Focus Fist. There you go. A 50k with non-upgraded Rev Knuckles. I don't have anything else that's helping it at all. I don't know what to tell you, man. Your gear should not be what determines how good you play the game. It really shouldn't. It should not stop you from enjoying the game. You can do anything inside this game with any part of gear at any time. You can have fun with it. Sure, it would take time, right? Like, it's gonna take a little while for me just to constantly, like, you know, act to this thing, you know? With B, it's gonna take, like, all a minute. Oh, I can disappear because of me being a demi. Maybe I should probably bone chip, huh? I have a bone chip laying around. Not really. What you doing? That's kind of doing something. I like the fact that I'm just showing off of me just doing turtle with puppets and I mean, and really explaining more chemical singer stuff. You know, I could be just in the chemical singer and just do the same thing. But, you know, I'm just gonna puppet it down, just pretty casually. Yeah. By the way, it's not gonna move for a little while. Yeah, how's you guys' day? Anything fun on July 4th? Anything more adventurous? Turtle. But no, I really do seriously need to say this right now that your equipment should really drastically not tell you what you can and cannot. I'm gonna be really honest with you. When I said this is for as early to mid to late game, honestly, if anything, you could just forget about this rune bow if you really want to, or forget about the demolition if you really want to. You can honestly do pretty much everything with this crossbow. It's really nice to have demolition or a rune bow. It really is. It's really nice to have both of them. But that's all it is. They're just nice to have. They really should not like determine what you can and cannot do, like anything, stop you from. Sure, it might speed up some things, but there is a point where even one hitting things is as common as just getting first use crossbow with LE12 and just simply just crash shotting. Won't make no difference from a demolition that does the same thing, and it won't make any difference to a ruin at all. So don't let your gear like stop you. Let's see what else do we have in trash bin in here. Especially on Imperial Armor. I'm gonna be honest, you're going to get the increased crit effect from your demolition and ruination bow. There's kind of no point of this. I know. Okay, hear me out. Music is kind of back. There we go. Like I know Unbreakable Will is a thing. I know it's nice, but hear me out. This is gonna sound really rude. Just don't get hit. Nah, I'm joking with you. Nah, it's really nice. Don't get me wrong. It's really nice. Unbreakable Will is really nice. It's basically Iron Will for like 30 seconds. It's really nice. It's actually no, it's not 30 seconds. It's 10 seconds or something like that. It's really low. Hang on, I could quickly just Iron Imperial Armor. Yeah, it's just 10 seconds. It's it's okay. I strongly don't really recommend it. It's okay. It does its job fine. My main issue with it is that since demolition and ruination bow like exist, there's kind of no point of it besides it's unshakable well. It's nice to have. Don't get me wrong. It's nice to have, but I strongly advise it as being one of your first purchase things, and instead aim for something else. This thing can cost around like 200 mil by itself, which is basically a demolition bow and more. So I wouldn't really recommend it versus even like saving up for a ruin bow. It should be like one of the last purchase things. And even then, I wouldn't strongly recommend. We don't talk about that one. We're gonna put that back in the basket. Okay, so let me explain these two gloves here. Let me be serious about for a moment. Hang on, let me mute the music. I'm gonna be really serious with you. These gloves are completely traps, and I wish they removed them from the game or change how their effect is. If you look at them right now, right? What you do right now is that they provide 100 centimeters of range, right? And that's for the Reaper one. For the Force ones, it says 10, right? Now, I know, I know a lot of people would be like, well, doesn't that affect ER? It does. It does. Okay, it does. However, the 100 meters and 10 meters that it does, right, are actually decimals in front of it, and they're not the full-on one that the bow upgrade does. So, if what I mean by that is that it's this. Hang on. Uh, where is it? There you are. There. So here's the thing. As you can see with the crossbow, right? It has 200 centimeters on it, right? With its attack range, with one of its first upgrades, right? Naked's crossbow's enhancement. That's 200 centimeters right there, right? Now, whenever you look at the gloves, right? it says 10 centimeters, right? And then the special, like the Reaper ones, right? Oh, what? Oh wait, no, that's fine. Oh, oh, that's fine. The Reaper ones say 100 centimeters, right? Now you might think that's a really big boost, right? Here's the thing: they're not really good. They're honestly not really that helpful, and they actually don't really do difference. They're not even like our level. I know it says centimeters on them, like plus 100, plus 10. It's actually wrong. They're actually plus 10 centimeters and plus 1 centimeter. And they actually don't really. They're both completely false of what they claim that they do. I know the crossbow itself and as well other upgrades say they do or plus 200 centimeters. This is the truth. This one right here is actually true. This plus 200 centimeters is actually noticeable. But these gloves, when they say plus 100 centimeters and plus 10 centimeters, they actually don't. They really don't follow with it at all. Like they wouldn't really do. So don't even bother trying to get them at all. I know there's a lot of arguments with them saying, well, it can make a difference. They don't make a difference. I'm sorry. They're kind of just fancy gloves in it else that don't really support. If you really want a pair of gloves, just buy a pair of like cheap gloves or just laying around with Max Shot 20. And if you really want gloves that have like skull on them, you should go for the RO set effect instead, or like even a Max one or that. But you really don't need them at all. Everything with a chemical stinger doesn't that kind of stuff, you know. It doesn't say anything about gold. Yeah, this is just learning about like different sets of gear of like learning from early mid and just learning about what's going on. I explained how early in right here, where you're just finishing up landing, you're gonna check normals, you're rebirthing constantly for more stuff, you're doing dungeons for spirits, some for gold as well, mountain for levels and gold and gems, bed dungeons to get you chance of those enchants and like step 7 stones that actually sell pretty decently, by the way. I'm kind of more surprised people don't really get them that much. Renown is really important. Renown is just really big, but this is like all like simple stuff that you should be doing anyways, no matter what type of player you are. These are like, simple stuff, like early stuff, But like stuff like this stuff right here, where it doesn't even help you even inside the late game, they shouldn't be recommended at all. If anything, they're just traps that don't really do much for you. They don't even help you in end game. They're like 100% just not worth it at all. Like I can make an argument about the speed boots. Some people will like the speed boots and they can take advantage of it of the speed. Like Brock can. Brock can take advantage. He's a human. He can totally take advantage of it. It can be really noticeable. But stuff like attack delay range, it doesn't help at all. Like attack delay, like effect doesn't affect your archery skills like at all. The Imperial Knight is nice to have. It's more of a quality of life thing, but it shouldn't be focused on because it's really expensive for what it is. It's the same story with attack speed. Attack speed does affect normal range attack and as well support shot, but it's not recommended and it's really pricey for what it's worth. And then it's like telling people, hey, the Nightbringer bow is good because it's an end game weapon when it's not. It is an end game weapon, but it's not good or helpful. It's really expensive. It takes a lot of like time to invest into one, and you can totally invest into other weapons or gear versus getting this bow. It's nice to have. Don't get me wrong. It's cool to look at. It's nice to show it off and stuff. But that's the whole thing about it. It's just nice to show it off and stuff. It's good in KR servers. Actually, there is an argument right now about that where more KR players are using the crossbow more versus the bow because there's just not enough predators in the server right now, which I think is fucking hilarious. I think that's like the most funniest shit I've heard. And sorry, that's completely off topic, but that's like the funniest thing I ever heard from KR that there's not enough predators in the game. So not every single chemical singer is the same inside KR. That's the most funny part about it. There's more crossbows than bows. I don't blame them though. They can stick pallet on it and then like some lion hunter suffix, bro. They don't have like heavy rain or anything. They have like weird like they they have the same suffixes as us, but we have like this shitty like bow suffix, like bow prefix. Yeah, I don't envy them. What a shame, you know. Honestly, the crossbow versus the bow was a huge argument back and forth. Definitely the bow is better though, but if it has the arrow, if it does not have the arrow, the crossbow is far more superior. So it makes so much sense. But yeah, these things are just nice to have. And then I'll explain about these last purchased items here. I will be honest with you, Push Force Ranger, the max damage only provides up to 6 more damage. It's 6 more damage. That's all you're getting, brother. That's it. It's okay. If anything, if you don't want this, go for the wings. They're basically on price. I would argue that the wings are much better, just because they have more max on them. Plus 8 max damage, right? Yeah, it's just on the 8. I don't know. There's kind of no point of it. Oh, these are Hunger 12. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's just plus 8. Those wings are like 400 mil, aren't they? They could go a lot cheaper. There's sometimes 200 mil. I think the highest they are is like around 400 mil. I wouldn't spend any more than though. But these are like considered as last purchasing. I wouldn't recommend purchasing all like even before Ruination. I would strongly advise purchasing any of these items before Ruination. These are like last things. Like even this. I here's the thing. Why aren't the new wings on there? I was gonna be talking about them, a part of the wings. The new wings are really nice, but they're still going to be inside the same category where you're going to be buying them after the ruination. They're kind of more of a min max kind of thing. What even is that outfit? It's a special seraphic outfit. Special seraphic has absorption 10 on it as well mana recovery on it. It's just kind of nice to have. It makes you less glass cannony. That's all it is. It's more of a defensive thing than anything else. But it's just more nicer to have. It's basically Saint Guardian. No, it's not basically Saint Guardian because the difference from this from Saint Guardian, right, is that this has absorption 10 on just the body itself versus Saint Guardian, which is this also recovers your mana over time whenever you're casting the spell. A good example is like healing yourself, healing a pet, or whenever you need to cast like a shield. I know that sounds really weird, but it happens and tends to happen at random times. Now, you don't want to get ice beard by something, so ice shield, right? There's multiple times where that won't be viable at all. That's when you can cast mage. No, you don't need to. You can just equip this on your archery set. Absorption itself is really nice. It's the same reason for this. It's nice to have like the iron will, the unshakable well, right? It's just less reliant on this because this can make you stand still, right? And reduce damage by 50%. But within those next 10 seconds of 50% damage reduction, since you don't have a lot of defensive protection as a chemical stinger, you're going to get hit pretty hard and pretty consistent, even with mana shield on. So it's kind of dangerous to have this on. And that's the biggest issue with this one versus this one. Versus this one right here. This is absorption. It can make the damage go down to 0. And it can set off at any time. There's no cooldown on it. You're not gonna rely on a cooldown when it comes to absorption. So when it compares to these two, they have their they have their pros and cons. But it could be really dangerous whenever you're wearing this, especially if you're like facing like a lot of things that are rolling over you. A good place is like Seven Nightmare, Crom Boss, where they have no aggro cap. I think it'd be more. This armor is more friendly for Glenburna, where the max amount of aggro you can get is 4 at a time, unless you hard aggro stuff. While this is more friendlier for large stuff, which are pretty more defensive builds, especially as a chemical stinger, as it can be. They're both really viable. They're both really helpful. All right. They're both really nice to have. They're really nice to take advantage of. You will cast spells sometimes whenever you're in this and recover mana for your mana shield. It's just really nice. The extra 100 magic attack as well can also make a difference as well, especially for people who don't have over like 900 magic attack, like 1k magic attack, because having that 1k magic attack cap for mana shield is really recommended for 90%. Right now I hit 7.6 with archery set, and that's purely because of my mana. attack from. If I minus 200 from it, it will bring me down to 500. And that's the thing. 560 is barely like 50% of magic attack from your mana shield reduction, which is still pretty good, but it's still not enough for even your protection. Because as an elf or as a human, you're not going to have a lot of defensive protection unless you're using defensive techs that would really help out. But these two are really viable. They're really good. They're really nice to have. It's just this one seems to be a little bit more dangerous inside mid game because there is going to be a lot of times where you are going to aggro a lot of things and it can be really dangerous. That's why I put it inside a pile a lot higher than anything else. Really because it's nice. Don't get me wrong. It's really nice. It's just it can be really dangerous versus the absorption set from this. That's the biggest reason why it's so high up there. It's nice to have. It's really nice. And then of course Shadow Reaper. I do need to talk about Shadow Reaper for a bit because of its benefits. Shadow Reaper increases your attack delay by 30%. It also increases your crit damage by 7% and increases your movement speed by 20%. I'm going to be honest with you. You're not going to matter about the attack delay or even the walking speed. The walking speed is kind of nice though. It displaced me like really crazy when I had it. But the extra crit damage on it makes it really makes it really well. It also has max damage on it, so it doesn't even need a special forest ranger at all. That's really nice to have. It sets off every single time you crit on something, so it's recommended to keep using Plume on with it, so you can always set it off. That's really nice to have. What do you mean? Wait, what? The 7% crit, or do you mean the 30% attack delay and 10%? I thought the movement speed didn't stack. It does stack. It's just how can I say this without being mean about it? About the speed. The speed honestly displaced me so much that it didn't really help me out. I bet it can really help out with humans pretty good. I just have way too much speed on me as an elf because you understand whenever I was using that chemical stinger, I was constantly under the effect of shield. I was constantly with a potion as well. And I was usually in demi like all the time. So I always kept my speed pretty much pretty high, maximum pretty much. Like constantly. It it did stack with all of that. It's just whenever it happens, right? It kind of like displaces me like crazy. It's kind of like having an elf with a Selena blade. An elf with a Selena blade gets displaced like really crazy. Yeah, exactly. Most of the time, you'll be ignoring the attack delay and movement speed. I'm gonna be honest with you. If they removed the attack delay and movement speed on its armor and just kept the crit damage, it would still be worth to get this. But I wouldn't recommend buying it before you get your rune. And I strongly recommend these like 5, 6 items to be your last purchase. Like this armor is okay. The wings are better. Even the other wings are better too. The extra 2% is really noticeable. The more defensive for these two are really nice, and more damage with Reaper wear is really nice. But just treat them as last purchase items. Don't focus on them at all. If anything, you should be focusing more on your erg. You should be focusing up on saving up for rune bow instead. They're largely more important and largely more better. Would you value those armors over skirmish armors? That's kind of a hard argument to say. I would definitely talk about that stuff like when we talk about end game stuff. Right now we're talking about like late game to end game. No, we're talking about mid game to late game. There's a difference from late game to end game. Well, there's a difference from late game to early in game and early in game to end game. Because there is a difference from min maxing stuff and there's a difference from equipment itself or min maxing the status of it. Oh boy, I can't wait to show off the EK stuff because oh man, that is like everywhere, bro. But that stuff should be really like not really focused on like anywhere whenever you're just playing from early to mid to late game. I think that kind of stuff should be focused more like after like late to. Um that is a true argument. It is honest about it. because of the prices of Terminus and Crows on top of it. The thing is, with Skirmish versus his armor, right, is that with Glen Burna armor pieces, you're going to be kind of trying to min max with them instead of just getting a few pieces of them. Right now, a lot of people do make the 3 pieces of them right now. Even for me, I was going to do 3 pieces and then the Reaper wear. And that's just get the 50 max damage on it and then the Reaper wear on top of it. It's really min maxy. But that's the thing. The skirmish armor itself isn't really that good, to be honest with you, I would argue. Um, it kind of brings back to what's going on with Enchants when it comes to the Glen Elite when it's coming up, right? That's the thing. The Glen Elite really drastically changes for what's going to be happening here pretty soon. Whenever we get it, because there's armor pieces in here and enchants in here that drastically could change a lot of things. A good example is actually uh for body for DD. I know a lot of people are not gonna agree with this, but I'm gonna be honest with you, it is so much better. So here's the thing about these enchants and it can really drastically change for late game. And it can really drastically change like end game by a lot, especially for DD players. So right now we have recently, not really recently, it's been about like 3 months, 4 months now, of us getting us Kukila, Kukini, Kumilif, Kukuni, whatever that enchant for mages, whatever it is. I don't know. I can care about it. Oh, not that one. No, I just don't really remember the actual name. Yuitsuyu or something like that. Yeah, it's something like that. This bad boy, 750 mil. I'm gonna be honest with you. This thing was the biggest scam they have ever made for the game, and I wish they never introduced these enchants in the game. I'm gonna be really honest with you about that. These enchants are super unhealthy for the game. They're not good for the game. They are not necessary for the game. They're unhealthy. They're not helpful. They're not useful. And I wish people didn't bought them to me. I really wish that people went against them personally because they're just not healthy for the game. They're just not good at all. If anything, they were a huge mistake, and I wish they were never introduced. But I'm glad that someone or someone somewhere out there went out of their way, right? And introduced these new like clothing right here, as you can see up here, right? Here's the thing about the difference from those enchants from the Glen Elite stuff that's coming out later on, is that this can only be enchanted on clothing. It has 15 to 20 magic attack, has alchemy damage of 15 to 20, increases magic protection 1 protection. This already has 5 more magic attack than that prefix. And this is also for clothing, which is 15 to 20 magic attack. This is the best in slot suffix for mages, but it can only be placed on clothing. Here's the thing. Social elemental is not clothing. It's lion. This means this suffix cannot be placed on lion. This means you'd be missing almost 25 magic attack without getting that suffix. Have fun with that. Alright. So we're gonna go to the debuff list when it comes to all the debuffs and stuff. I'm gonna be honest, it's kind of similar to DD and like Magic and as well to EK, to be frank. I will talk about the glyph part here just for a little while, purely because there is a few things I do need to talk about the glyph part. First off, it's always going to be, always going to be Fate Weaver, no matter the circumstance. It's always going to be Fate Weaver. You're going to always Bronic it. Secondly, this is going to be absolutely terrible for elves. I should tell that to all the elf viewers. It's always going to be a merciful time. Please, for the love of God, if you're a human, please just shock yourself or ask the elf to shock you, bro. And just final hit for the elf, man. Why does the elf gotta do it, bro? Death Mark, always good, always great. Never deny it. Fantastic Course actually doesn't really affect too much when it comes to a lot of stuff when it comes to like defense and protection and stuff. It does, however, do slow down the enemies, which is really nice to have, and it's really nice to have to place it down regardless if you're going to be a foe anyways. Plus, anything that's a boss like Fefieta or like Balor who do use magic, it's really noticeable how much damage they do less just because of this red ring. So always put down. It takes legitimately 1 second to bring out your gloomy or like any instrument. To be honest with you, place on this fantastic course. Don't deny the fantastic course, bro. It's nice. It's really lovely. It affects so many mobs. It's ridiculously nice. It is ridiculously overpowered in Cycle and Burna and Crom. It is really, really, really nice. Uppercut is really recommended. Smoke bomb range is awesome. And then I'll talk about glyphs here. I'm gonna be honest with you, this -10 defense and protection isn't as popular as the magic one because most of the time as a chemical singer, you rather be using Magnum Shot glyph instead and Crash Shot glyph as well, because those are two damage increases, which are really nice and really strong, and they're really helpful. And they do more overall damage than this -10 defense protection, since it's not even up piercing level. So it's strongly recommended to use those instead of this 4 glyph, as having a Magnum Shot and Crash Shot damage is just more recommended. Like it's overall more damage versus, especially if the mob can just casually just move out of it too. So just keep that in mind. Uh, Cat is always good. Putting down the circle is really good. It's better than a bone dragon. If you only have a bone dragon, that's perfectly fine. Just use the bone dragon. Mirror's always recommended. They always give a boning mirror for free, so go nuts. Wait, how does that farm get to 35%? 35% inspired the gloves being 2020, and as well getting this awesome radical outfit that they have yet to release. And I wish they released it, but they don't want to because they want to be mean about it. I don't know why. Because I really want one. I'm not gonna spend over 200 mil on it though. What's his name? Is it just Chain Slash Otis? I really want one. Why did he not bring it back? Why did he not ever release this thing? This thing is really good. It's very powerful. Why would they not? Come on, man. Bro, bring it back. I want it. By the way, if any of your team members have this bad boy, you should just let them death mark. I'm sorry. Don't even bother try to death mark. Just get your teammates to death mark. It sucks they have yet to re-release that. I'm not gonna lie. I'm so mad they have yet to re-release that. It is such a huge increase in damage just by that thing alone. But yeah, well, first Toxic Queen after, you know, and then if you really want to, you can Phantasmal Sight the last. Exactly. See, you just swap out the Death Mark for the glyph as well. It's really nice. That's why it's up to 35% because of the glyph on top of it. It's really noticeable. It's really noticeable having all this stuff on top just for Death Mark. Death Mark is ridiculously overpowered. Fate is really overpowered. Bronic is nice. Death Mark is ridiculously good. Horus is amazing. Smoke Bomb and Uppercut are okay. They're nice to have, especially when you can't summon pets. A good example is Data. I strongly recommend using Smoke Bomb or Uppercut purely because they do also do physical defense and protection, but it's also because of one big factor that a lot of people do tend to ignore is opponent's analyzation, where it increases your damage by 10% for having one of the debuffs on. Please don't ignore this. This is actually really nice to have. Do not ignore this. But I will talk about more about that stuff about buffs when I talk about endgame stuff. All right, buffs like pre-buffs, buffs, and after buffs would be more of inside of endgame stuff. All right, but just don't ignore this. This thing is ridiculously nice. You can apply uppercut really easily with an ultimate. It's pretty straightforward. All right. So let's talk about the Chemical Stinger like opener and normal rotation. You ready for this? Because it is going to be complicated to explain it all. Ready? Yeah! What the fuck am I looking at? What the heck am I? What? Wait, huh? Yeah! Urgent Shot, brother! We have first our opener that's up here. We're going to be using our golden time with Fate Weaving ourselves and then Urgent Shotting, then go to Try Assault, shoot them all out, use your plume, start using Magnum Shot, then use your Hydro Pierce immediately, use whatever fucking this is. I don't even remember what this is. Hurricane just to get your Try Assault back up as soon as possible, then Urgent Shot once again. You're magging this constantly every single fucking time. Have fun with your health pool, by the way. The only time you're gonna recover that health is whenever you're fate fighting yourself, bro. That's the whole point of this fate. It has to constantly be up, man. You don't, if you urgent shot without your fate on, I don't know what to say. You're gonna die, brother. You want to see how fast urgent shot kills you? Watch this. Shit. I hope you have fun with that knowledge. Oh no! Why does it have to kill health? You're gonna constantly have the well buff on you. You constantly have to have Faye on you. Oh man, Chorus will save your ass. I don't think you understand how much I'm like really like making Fantastic Chorus be like this really big thing. I don't think you guys understand how big Fantastic Chorus is, especially for a chemical singer. Well is nice, but man, you wouldn't believe how hard it is to just completely upkeep your stamina or health constantly up. Because, oh man, it is ridiculous. It is just absurd, like how much like stamina this stuff takes. But don't get me wrong, it's oh man. Oh man. All right, let's explain this opener and then the normal rotation. So the opener is going to obviously be for more boss oriented, right? You're going to be using your golden time no matter what happens. You're going to always use urgent shot. You're always going to fate yourself and fate the boss, right? You're going to fate the boss first, by the way, and then fating yourself, and then urgent shot, and then until you try assault and use them all up. Once you use your try assault, you use plume, then immediately into hydro, into immediately into your next chemical singer, which I don't even remember what the this one is the Hurricane one, and then into Urgent Shot, and then start magging it. You don't even mag this entire time. You're purely using your chemical stingers to get your pretty much your golden, like get your Trisalt as soon as possible for the next rotation. You're underestimating how lazy I am, brother. Come on. Here's the thing. Once you figured out how to go through like this first urgent shot, like this first opener, right? You get to start using your plume, start going back into magnum shotting. You will get your urgent shot back into magnum shotting, into hydro pierce, into magnum shotting, into plume, and then your fate will be off within the 30 seconds. By the way, this is not a 40-second fate. This is a 30-second fate. Once you get your 30 seconds off your fate yourself and fate the boss once again, this actually gives you one more mag shot before you can close it, unless you have a high ping. They don't even bother try to magnum shot it. Just get ready for urgent shot. Once you get your urgent shot off, go back to magnum shotting and just use your hurricane, and then go back to magnum shotting, back to plume, magnum shot, and to the air shooting one. I keep forgetting its name. It's like Earth something, bro. I don't really. What are you called again? Parascourge. Oh. Andrew Hyde to Pierce, Magnum Shot more, Urgent Shot, Magnum Shot, Plume, Magnum Shot, constantly. I'm gonna be honest with you. You're going to just Magnum Shot so much, and if anything, the only time you're not gonna be Magnum Shotting is if you're crash shotting, and the only time you're going to crash shot is whenever you see large groups. It's legitimately the only time. If you can see more than 5 targets, crash shot it. If you cannot, mag shot it. Oh right, that's not should have been there anyways. Bam, bam, bam. This is like from my old stuff. This is when I used to like do the rotation like all the time. But no, yeah, it just keeps repeating. Legitimately, at this point, right, where you can fit yourself again, you can urgent shot again. This actually can actually bring you back into Triasol 100% at the time, even with ping issues. If you have over 180 ping, this will bring you back from here at the very bottom, right? If I move my head, there you go. Back to this Triasol, perfectly in line within the, and you can just repeat this entire process once again. It is abysmally kind of a long rotation. But don't get me wrong, this is mainly for bosses. Keep that in mind. This is mainly for bosses. This is your first opener, then your normal rotation down here until you get Tri-Salt once again. It looks more confusing than it really is. No, you get used to it. Believe me. The main reason I simplified it as much as possible, right? Here's the thing: your plume will be off cooldown. Your Hydro Pierce will barely be off cooldown. Here's the thing, right? Once you use your Tri-Assault and finish it, and use your plume, Hydro, and Hurricane, and Auto Hurricane, right? This will be off cooldown. It will come back first. All right. Have you done an EK explanation of this? Not yet. We're going to be doing the EK one on Monday. But the plume will be off cooldown. Plume has a faster cooldown than Hydro. That's the whole reason why it's here. Once you use Plume, right, an urgent shot, Hydro will come off cooldown perfectly in sync, even at 180 ping. Monday it is. Yeah, Monday it is. Once Hydro is being used and you Magnum shot, you have your Plume off cooldown. And you can use urgent shot again, and then these two will be off cooldown once again. Hurricane, your Hydro Priest is still on cooldown. Keep that in mind. Hydro Priest is still on cooldown. Hydro Priest is still on cooldown. Now Hydro Priest is off cooldown. And then you can start using it again. Just keep in mind, this is completely using advantage of all the cooldowns that you have available. This is pretty much your entire uptime and constantly shooting. There is going to be mistakes. Don't get me wrong. If you really want to, you could totally escape, like totally like skip Hurricane and the Earth one, mostly for movement. Like if you want to move around, you can completely ignore this, right? You can urgent shot, keep mag shotting it, right, and go to Plume. You can just take this time to move or like anchor rush somewhere else more safer. Or if you need to do something at that very moment, like apply a new debuff, because this is where most of the time where smoke screen will go off as well. Just keep that in mind because it's already past the 30 seconds, right? Just keep that in mind. So that's the whole reason why these two are here. These are considered as filler. You're gonna always have upkeep for Plume and Hydro as those are your main focus. Yes, you need to always have these off cooldown constantly. These two are just filler. They can be used for other things if you really want to, like debuffing with Smokescreen again, or it gives you time to uppercut as well, or put down a Fantastic Chorus. These two are completely filler. You can also take the time to use them for Earth, like for air and Earth, to fill up your gauge. Yeah, pretty much. The other one's just to fill gauges. These two are just purely to fill gauges. They should be treated as fillers and anything else. But they are this entire rotation makes it completely in sync of what you need to do, right? It's completely simplified. I made it as simple as much as I can. I put no smoke screen or uppercuts, but these two are basically this entire like 3 section right here. You can honestly either like just use the plume alone and use these as two fillers and put them like afterwards if you want to. Just always remember to always have your fate on you constantly and your urgent shot always present on you. I don't think you understand how much damage you're completely losing for just not using urgent shot like at all. Urgent shot gives you an increased damage of 12%. Why would you not use this? It is so good. Oh man, it's ridiculously good. I don't know why no one wants to use this bad boy. Why would you not want to fate yourself? That's 10%, 12% if you do it correctly with the pattern. That's over. Like, come on, man. Why would you not want to do that? Come on. Oh, it's all right here too. I forgot. Because you're lazy. No. All right. So, let's do a summary of what we have done. There is an ad going to be starting here soon, so stay tuned for a little while for that ad to pop up, and I would do like a summary of what's going on, right? As they should. Yeah. Man, I really need to drink water more. Not gonna lie. I haven't been drinking water like I've been like constantly doing pop or like Gatorade's healthy, but like too much Gatorade is on because of all the electrolytes inside of it. Like the electrolytes are healthy, right? But like if you drink too much of it and you don't really exercise, it could be like don't get me wrong, kind of the whole Gatorade's not oh, man. I'm also gonna grab some water. Yeah, water. Water's important, brother. I drink like 4 bottles of water a day a minute. No way. A lot of water, bro. I think it doesn't really help to have these like smoked almond nuts beside me too that I was like nibbling on. So I was like, man, I'm really dehydrated. I drink water. I drink water too. What? That's weird. True. All right, and we're back. Hey guys, welcome back. So we're gonna do a summary of what a chemical stinger is. By the way, I should tell you guys all this right now before we get going. Uh, I am gonna be uploading all these VODs up to YouTube as well, so keep in mind of those. They won't have music or anything like that right now, like in the stream in the background or anything like that. I would see if I can edit them down too, so they won't be as long as the VODs are, to be honest with you. But we will see. Once I find an actual decent editor, you know. But yeah, let's do the summary of Chemical Stinger, shall we? So we went over the pros and cons of being the highest DPS there is and constant DPS as well. Largest range out of all the kanas. There's not a lot of weapon switching. Kind of an advantage. It's kind of nice at times. The cons is that you're pretty much a glass cannon in most like scenarios. Keep that in mind. You don't have a lot of magic attacks, so you don't have your mana shield to protect you too much. You don't have like a lot of like defense unless you're using like tech pages, which is kind of a bummer to do at times. But you know, it's nice to have them all. Your movement is pretty mid. You do have like a lot of movement speed and stuff, so it's okay. It's pretty decent. It's better than Dark Diviners, that's for sure. Um, you're pretty much all your damage. It's mostly from debuffs. Good examples like BFO, Bone Chip, Attack Potion. That's where most of your damage will be coming from because of the multipliers they provide. caters and all that stuff. So just keep that in mind. You will need to be pre-buffing for that kind of stuff. It helps out. I also said that elves can start this at any time that humans need Erg 50s. I would tell you this right now from like early to mid game, you kind of don't really need to worry about this kind of stuff. But once you get into like mid to like late game, it will start to become more apparent. Your Magnum shot, it would just be way too long cooldown. You would need to rely on other sources like Arrow Revolver or like Crash Shots. It just takes a little. It just means you just have a little bit of downtime. It's not. It's kind of a big thing inside later game, but for someone who's like mid game to late game, it's not that big of a deal for now. But anywhere like past that, it will become a big. It can really like change how much damage it. And then Arrow Revolver glitches you. Yeah, it does. Of course, the early game, you're going to be completing Blinded. You're going to be doing tech missions. You can do the normal versions or do hard motions with friends. Rebirthing is always recommended, especially for early levels. Doing dungeons for spirit gems and spirit weapons and some extra cash. Same thing with shadow missions. The dungeons is the same story. Pretty good source of spirit ego experience and some cash. And then there's balancing missions that are really excellent for experience. Renown is very important early to mid game just because of how much health it provides and how much more damage it provides too. Really strongly recommend start capping all this stuff, by the way. Red upgrade always would be recommended. I know there is the argument of blue upgrades when early game with max attack, but I strongly kind of just say, fuck it, just go red upgrade. It doesn't matter, bro. You got this. Stardust should be always something to be passive. Don't like focus on it too hard. Totems is the same story. Don't focus on them too hard right now. It'll be something for like later on the road. I would recommend to always make your first 100 level 100 weapon be your main weapon, which will be bow or crossbow. Always be your main weapon, okay? Smolderings and Frostridge should be something more passive. Akamiko Stinger links are as powerful as other links. They're really nice and they're really large quality of lives. I think the biggest one for Akamiko Stinger actually starts at link 6 and then it starts again at link 10. Those are really the biggest ones for Akamiko Stinger, from my calculations. But that's purely because of how much more damage output they provide. Everything else inside the link itself is more quality of life, more extra health, stamina, HP. They're just nice to have. They're really nice quality of life. And when it comes to early game to like getting into mid game, I strongly recommend only just purely looking for a weapon upgrade, which is the Perseus crossbow. As Perseus crossbow only costs us around 15 mil to. No, seriously. If you guys are new, these revive things, right? These illusion crystals, right? These bad boys can go for 1 point. What the heck? Why is that up there? I know it's because I had hung not them. Yeah, these bad boys hit like around 600k. By the way, the only reason why they're even this high right now is because people were panicking about the scythes and they were like, "Oh, the scythe, the Perseus scythe," and then they told us what's made out of it. It's out of functional Ghetto. So yeah, go nuts, go crazy. These things are still pretty much gonna go dirt cheap again. They're gonna probably hit the 400k price, which is basically, I don't think you understand. If these things ever go back down to 400k, right? I'm gonna be honest with you, I would totally make a pair because that's 6 mil for a crossbow. That's really good. 6 mil for 400k, 15 of these things. Oh man, that's fantastic. Those are one. You might as well go bow until that doesn't last. No, I wouldn't recommend a bow. The reason why I don't recommend the bow is because of the piercing itself, and as well the extra range. The crossbow actually provides 200 extra range and 2 more piercing. The arrow actually has almost exactly the same stats as the special bolt rack as well, where it only provides 10 extra percent damage and 15 max, but the bolts give 10% more extra damage, but there's no 15 extra max. But the crossbow itself has a little bit more max in it when it's max rolled, like fully carpetried, but I don't think you will be focusing on it too much. The 2 extra piercing will go far a lot more further than just a normal thing. Especially when you're starting out mid to late game, like you're getting into tech missions, the extra 2 piercing would be. I strongly recommend picking up any Magnum shot gloves. Ignore these special gloves. Honestly, these special gloves don't do anything. They're just there just to represent. Just pick up any like random junk. Um, Pick up any random like crash shot hat for range. The extra range is really nice, really well, really helps out. Expo gaming messes up you up when later on when you don't get used to the running with mags. That's actually another thing why I wanted to bring up the crossbow a lot more too, by the way. If you didn't know, elves can actually run with a chemical stinger skills, but humans cannot. Humans are forced to walk unless they have a crossbow. So it is something to get used to. I should warn that. Yeah, if you didn't know, elves can run with a chemical stinger skills. Humans can't run with it. No. I think that's like the funniest thing about it too. But yeah, the crossbow would just be more useful right now for mid to late game, and it could really help out, especially when running around as an elf or human. I think the crossbow is just that much better and really more helpful. I think the only time you're gonna ever notice the difference is whenever you do upgrade to the demolition bow, right? And that's when you will focus on it later. But for now, I think I strongly recommend picking up a Perseus crossbow. Get it as cheap as you can, and get like random mag 20 gloves and like random crash off fragment range for helping out with dungeons and clearing them out faster and help out with anything. And then focus on these reforges later on. Ellie is for raid reasons and for dungeon reasons, but anything else after that, such as doing Echo Stones, doing Phantasm, or doing Take the Win missions or Crom, or even Burn a Normal, Ellie won't help you out. I strongly recommend focusing on more on Magnum Shot on both your gloves and accessories. ER range is really helpful and really nice, even for a chemical stinger, even though it doesn't affect its damage. But it is really nice to have the extra and more time for your Magnum shots. Max damage is really nice to have on your crossbow. Crash shot damage is really nice on gloves. I still would recommend Magnum Shot over Crash Shot damage, purely because Crash Shot only affects Plume and Magnum Shot affects Hydro Pierce. But if you could get both of them, you might as well get both of them. I strongly recommend it. But I still recommend Magnum Shot over Crash Shot. Crash Shot range is really nice for raids. Really nice, not for raids, sorry, for dungeons. Really nice for group up stuff like Crom and Glenburna. Really noticeable. And water efficiency, fire efficiency are strongly recommended for boots and Echo Stone, the Black Echo Stone specifically. And both of those can really affect how much your chemical stinger damage for Plume and Hydro can really do. It can really make a game changer for both of them. Really powerful. They're both really strong, and they can really make a difference. Air is really nice. It can really help out when starting out the game, but I wouldn't focus on it too much. And Earth is more of a supportive one. If you guys didn't need this, actually, uh, the Terror Scourge one, the one with what's it called? Yeah, Terror Scourge. The one with Earth and Water, right? What it does is it reduces attack damage from the enemy, right? With Earth and Water, which is 10% for 10 seconds, right? If you guys didn't notice, water efficiency and earth efficiency does affect the attack damage. It does. It actually does increase it from 10% up to 20% at max rolls. I bet you guys didn't know that. It also increases its duration seconds from 10 seconds up to 20 seconds. Pretty nifty, right? 20% attack damage is really nice. I'm just saying. But yeah, just treat it as more like a debuffer than anything else. It's okay as a debuff. It doesn't do too much though. What does air effect do? Looks at my 23 air efficiency boots. Air one affects spark. Spark is pretty decent. It's spark is pretty strong. With plume, as I can hit up to 6 times. It doesn't really affect Aqua Volley because that would make it freeze, so you're losing damage on that. Ventus Howl, it will affect its damage, but nothing else. It does affect Terror Scourge's damage though, as Air and Earth does overtime damage of a DOT. As you can see. Oh wait, no, it does the blind. Never mind, that's the wrong one. The Earth and Fire is the damage one, the damage overtime one. So you just increase your blind duration, and then you just increase Plume's damage. That's all. Air is kind of it's okay. Does freezing my enemies use does less damage? It does less damage because of one thing. It's not freezing the enemies themselves. It's because fire and water increases its damage by 15%, while fire earth deals damage over time, right? Well, fire and wind deals 200% additional damage and we damage affected by enemies. This means it's exclusively for Plume. Exclusively for Plume. It would deal this extra damage. However, water and air, right? Right there, water and wind, it doesn't gain any increased damage at all. All it does is just freeze enemies for 3 seconds. What the air one does, it just increases its timer. I forgot for how much personally. I think the most with a 23, I think you could get up to like 8 seconds if I can for the calculations. I can't really remember on top of my head. I could be wrong about that. It could be more, it could be less, but it's just not really worth it personally. I do know the water affects this a lot more though, the freeze effect, than really the wind, because both the water and wind stacking on top of each other does affect it. It just increases its duration, that's all. It doesn't give more damage like the wind, fire, and wind, where it's 200% damage. It's not like fire earth, where earth can increase its damage for a fixed amount of damage for its duration. And it's not like fire and water, where it just increases damage purely by 15% by itself. You know, that's kind of the main issue with water and wind, and why Hydro Pierce should never be water and wind. I think the only time you ever want to use water and wind is if you want to meme around or freeze something that you know you can freeze a decent time. A good example is like Teflon balls, right? If you really don't want the damage from Hydro Pierce, that's really the only time, really. But there's a reason why I haven't really talked about the skills like I did with DD, because if you guys remember, I did a little section for uh Dark Diviner where I was talking about learning the skills, right? I didn't did it for this one for early, mid, or late for Akamakose. And the main reason why is because of this particular one of Hermit's Harmony, where it can just change your effects depending on what you're using. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't think you should be really hard focused on this as someone who's starting out the game, like early, mid, or I will argue you probably start learning this stuff inside late game to really take advantage of each one a lot more. Well, I would simplify it really easily. I would say fire water is damage, fire earth is damage over time, fire air is damage for AoE for spark. Anything with fire is basically damage. Water air is only for freezing, not really recommended. Water earth is for debuffing, and air earth is for blinding, which is just a debuff. It's not really recommended, so the ones you're going to be using the most is fire, air, fire, water, fire, earth, to be honest with you. That's pretty much how your chemical scales will look like most of the time. I know it sounds kind of like a bummer, but that's the life of a chemical stinger, really. It's kind of hard to get like any of the other orbs, but that's pretty much the best way. I'll go into the more depth about that stuff once we talk about a chemical stinger again. Once we talk about the late game to early end game a lot more, to min max pretty much everything about it. Because there is a bit of min maxing when it comes to the earth water one. There is actually a lot. I'm not gonna lie. And then pretty much once you get those reforges done, I recommend looking for a demolition bow. Demolition weaponry as of this moment are cost approximately around 90 to 100 mil, almost at most 100 of 20 mil. This is because of arrow. You will cost more than DD. Keep that in mind because of the arrow reasons. This thing bad boy costs like 5 misties. Like, come on, man. They could have done anything else for it, you know? Kind of a dick move. But yeah, that's kind of the main issue of a chemical stinger with a demolition. I would only recommend this upgrade if you can afford both the demolition and the demolition arrow at the same time. If you can only purchase the demolition bow, then you're keeping the Perseus crossbow bow. Both of them have 4 piercing. You don't get any of the set effects from the demolition by itself, and you're going to be using normal arrow. So you might as well just keep the Perseus crossbow until you can afford both of them. This is also the point where you're going to be focusing more on reforges as well, and also the point where humans actually will start to erg. This is going to be more for mid to late game. Keep that in mind. Your late game for elves is starting to save up for a Ruination bow because the Ruination will determine for you for late game to end game, to late game to early end game, and then early end game to end game. As for humans, you're going to be starting this erg and then swapping to this one afterwards once you reach the end game. But that'd be for more min maxing stuff, alright? Alright. And now for the traps. With our traps, we said no to attack delay, we said no to speed boots. They're nice to have, don't get me wrong, they're nice to have, but not recommended. These gloves are worthless, don't even bother going for them. We don't talk about that. And the armors, it's nice to have the special imperial, just be careful with it. There is no mob aggression cap when it comes to Crom and Tech to Win missions. So a lot of things can go on you and kill you really fast. Just keep that in mind. If you really want something more defensive, right, go for the special seraphic. It gives you absorption, gives you magic attack, whatever you set it off to, with mana shield. It's really nice and really nice. And if you're just kind of more focused on more max attack, you can totally focus on more on special ranger as it's cheaper than special reaper. It's nice to have the 8 max. It's nice to have. Wings will actually overcome this, by the way, because the max of these two don't stack, and the max does not stack with any Sienna Bliana gear. We will talk about the Sienna Bliana gear later on once I talk about late game to early. But if you really want to go full on more damage, the Reaper wear is 100% recommended. Now, when it comes to debuffs, we have a full list of just fading things. Always the first thing to do: fade yourself, fade the boss after, like fade the boss first, and then fade yourself. Start Breelwing it, and then start to DM it. Put down a fantastic chorus for yourself as a green or red for the boss if you really want to, or put them all around the place or arena just to help out with your teammates and yourself. Because you can understand, I don't think you understand how big fantastic chorus affects a snuggly that's across the room that can one shot you, bro. That's legitimately what this fantastic chorus does. And this is what fantastic chorus will do. A snuggly cannot one shot you if it's fully charged, max magnum shot crit, it won't kill you instantly. It will kill you within the next 2 hits, though. Keep that in mind. Uppercut is really nice. Smoke screen is really nice too. Both of them add an additional piercing to everything that you do. Uh, Cat is always nice, especially placing down the circle. It will replace Bone if you ever replace it. Bone is fine. It's honestly perfectly fine. And Bone and Mirror is really perfect too. Once you get like VIP, you can get a whale, and then once you get enough gold for Foxyquin, both of these can stack on top of each other. Always summon the whale first, and then the Foxyquin. And with glyphs, I would strongly recommend looking for Magnum Shot glyph and Crash Shot glyph instead of putting this one on the floor. The Magnum Shot glyph does a lot more damage, and the Crash Shot glyph also does a lot more damage, and just overall more damage over time. Also look for anything with like Fantastic Chorus to increase its time, or Death Mark, or anything with Reforge related with these two. When it comes to status effects, the Special Seraphic or Troubadour Hat can also increase its status from 20% to 30% for the Special Seraphic. No, sorry, for the Special Troubadour Hat, it will increase it up to 40%, and the Seraphic Shoes will increase it up to 50%. Reforges that affect uppercut will be the uppercut protection damage reduction, and I strongly recommend trying to get uppercut chance. Uppercut chance is so good and ridiculously amazing, but it's a shame that it also is your uppercut damage. But if you don't care about the uppercut damage and you only care about uppercut chance, it's strongly recommended. Smokescreen is always nice. Smokescreen range will always be nice. Smokescreen doesn't have anything else when it comes to its reforge besides range. And I think that's all you really should pick up. The only other reforges that affect it is honestly just its defense, which isn't that big of a deal. Just go for more range. It could go on your shuriken, it could go on gloves. And Deathmark, obviously it's just gloves and accessories to increase its duration and amplification. Oh yeah. And one more time for the Chemical Stinger rotation. Your opener against bosses will always be golden time to fate yourself, fate the boss. Urgent shot it, start shooting it with your tri-assaults. Use your plume, hydro, hurricane 1, hurricane 2, and an urgent shot, and then go to your normal rotation. The normal rotation is for normal, ordinary stuff. You don't need to do this opener on normal mobs. I wouldn't recommend it because tri-assault is so powerful. You should be using it like whenever you use it like on bosses. You can use it on mobs if you really want to, but I wouldn't recommend wasting your time on them. Um, I don't think it's that helpful if you see like a large group of enemies. Like Trisoul can hit multiple targets, keep that in mind. But because it's a straight line, it's not as prevalent as Plume and Hydro. So I strongly recommend just simply just using like if you really want to, just use Urgent Shot, Fate yourself, Fate whatever, like Fate yourself, Urgent Shot, and then Plume into Hydro. You'd skip this Urgent Shot since it's on cooldown right now, and that's pretty much your normal opener here. Your normal like trash mob. Fate yourself, Urgent Shot, Plume, Hydro, and then just go off from there. Go back to Plume, Urgent Shot, and then with any fillers like Smoke Bomb, Classic Core, like that, you start placing down the filler of these of like Hurricane One, and then Plume once again. So yeah, that's pretty much a Chemical Stinger. We'll be talking about EK early game to mid game to late game Monday. I was actually thinking of putting out like a little schedule whenever I'm offline, just so folks can see it and stuff. I'm gonna be honest, I've been really like sleeping like really late. Like I go to sleep around like 8 in the morning. By the way, it's right now it's 8 p.m. That's my fault though. But yeah, that's pretty much a summary about a Chemical Stinger. It's really fun. It's really nice. You know, your first investment is only like 12 mil. Uh, let's say that's 15 mil at most. Plus this, that's 35 mil. Plus that, that's about 65 mil. And then we would say the boots, that's about 80 mil just in the equipment, just like that. 80 mil in just pure reforges. And then a bow and arrows, that's another 100 mil. I would say 110 mil. There you go. It's over 290 mil just to make an entire chemical set, right? As an elf. And then Erg starts at 700 mil at Erg S. So at most, you're spending about 920 mil. Or whenever you get a Ruination, that is over like one bill, right? So that's 1.2. Keep in mind that the elf will need to hunt down for those Urges later on because of crash out reasons. And the human will start to hunt down for the Ruination. Well, I will talk about prices about that stuff once we talk about it, once we talk about late game to end game, right? And don't get me started on this stuff. This stuff will be completely stuff we will talk about later on, especially when it comes to gear equipment. But for now, the most you're going to be spending is around 280 mil for this entire set. Or like Reforge is already bought random like boots, random glove, random hat, a random body maybe if you really want to. Not recommended, but if you really want to. But it's nice to have. But yeah, other than that, that's what we have for today. It wasn't like totally in depth right now for a Chemical Stinger because most of our Chemical Stinger stuff is kind of just for fun in the beginning of the game and mid game. I think the more in-depth stuff, it's more like min-maxing when it comes to late game to end game, because that kind of stuff can get a little like confusing for folks. It's the same story with EK, where EK early, mid, and late game are more just to like try out the rotations and have fun with it and take advantage of it. But once it comes to reforges and set effects, it gets really, really min-maxy and really annoying. That's the only reason why I haven't really introduced them inside this, because most of early game, mid game, and late game should not be focusing on that kind of stuff right now. They should be focusing on things that should give them definitely like larger buffs, like Urgus. That would definitely be a huge buff for humans, or like a Ruination. That would be also a really large buff. Like even upgrading from the Perseus to the Demolition is a really large upgrade, and having the reforges already set up is a really large upgrade. So these guys are going to look quite similar from this one to EK, really because EK and the Chemical Stinger do focus more on the reforges than really their equipment. So yeah. All right. So what do you guys want to raid? We got a lot of people here. There's Persians. Oh, there's Holy. There's Cyber. There's Illuminati. Hey, there's me. Who should we go for? Here's you. Yeah. Personally, I love Dine. All right, let's get to Dine then. All right. Thanks for everybody coming. I'm gonna be saving this VOD and then trying to upload it, try to edit. I also edit the DD one, and hope to see you guys tomorrow for Glen Hard mode runs. And then Monday we'll talk about EK because EK is actually a lot of stuff to talk about. I'm gonna be honest, it's gonna be kind of hard to like talk about anything mid to late game for it because it does get a little like intense once it gets. Glad you're doing this. Yeah, folks have been telling me that they're really glad about it. But yeah, let's go to Don Illuminati, say hi to them and stuff. Thanks for you guys for coming in. I'll see you guys tomorrow for Glen Hardmore runs, and then Monday for EK, and then Tuesday we talk about Harmonic Saint, and then Wednesday I would decide what we're going to be doing there. There's a high chance Wednesday would be like something either if I get it ready or not, either maybe the starting of end game, like late game to early end game for DD. Maybe we can start that stuff, or we can get started on doing talent, like early game, late game, like talents. Like we can talk about that kind of stuff later. But we will see what everyone thinks. All right, all right. I'll see you guys later. Bye.